do this. So which episode number are we?
Yeah, this is 57.
57? Okay, I'll announce it as 57. And then I'll say, and I'll do 69 just for Jeff.
Oh.
No, because you love the 69 and 420. And no.
Oh.
No. Okay. Just stop it now. Let me open this. So here we are, CyberBulls number 57, making it again with the 4 boys. And they let me moderate today. So here we go. Herbert, Christian, Xander, and of course, Jeff the man. Let's go there. Okay, so how about we have the first topic, which is Tesla in general. We're going to talk about the Highland success. Remember last week, we thought it was close. And wow, the same evening it came out. It was the most busy Thursday evening we had in a long time. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the CyberTruck, more sightings be seen. Lots of news around Giga Mexico, Indonesia, Canada. Q3 numbers, what do you expect for deliveries and production? And today's deal that the Hilton hotels are going to install 20,000 destination chargers. So let's go there.
The company and the product. Don't look at the quarterly stock movement.
As a trader, I got to take some off the table and wait for a better price.
A very realistic bull, questioning certain decisions.
The rational bull. I enjoy listening to bears.
Looking for the red flags. You're supposed to react.
Who wants to talk about how much they love the new Model 3? Herbert?
Yeah, so in that list that we just showed, there's actually 5 items, and 4 out of the 5 is very good news. And the only bad news is possibly a delayed in the Giga Mexico, which we'll talk about. The Highland is a major hit. It's a major hit, as we were saying. So it's only early signs, but in the first week, we're starting to hear lots of indications from salespeople saying that it's 10 to 1. We saw that the order page for Giga Shanghai has, crashed like they sometimes do when you introduce a new product. Now, this is kind of like the first reaction to a brand new refresh product. Maybe it will stick, maybe it won't. But just judging from everybody's reaction, it looks like a major hit. The redesign is fantastic. It looks much sportier, which is what I was really hoping for. It's going to reposition this into its new segment of a sporty car. I was shocked at the pricing, and it might be that they raised the prices because, again, it's the first intro, get the people who really want it badly, get it there, and then maybe in the future, lower it down lower. It's got to be separated from the Model Y is what I kept thinking, but we'll see what they end up doing there. But I'm happy. I mean, I think what they said, 50% of the parts has been replaced. We don't know if it has the Giga castings or the structural batteries. Likely it doesn't, but it looks like that may come later. But other than that, I mean, if they can still, have 50% parts of the replaced, that's fantastic breakthrough.
I mean, for sure, the design is wonderful, right? The color, that new red, absolutely love it. But there are a couple of things I found surprising. The first one is that it's not available in North America yet. The second, obviously, you already touched on that, is pricing. And the third one is and I mean, the difference of the two, right? The old model looks heavy now, while this one looks so slim and slick. It's wonderful. And the third one is obviously these 50% off parts. So, Jeff, you being the specialist on supply chain, did you expect more on the parts? Do you think this is the good solution?
Yeah, I think they're really going for... They started at the user or the consumer, and they worked backwards, and they said, let's fix a bunch of things that that may have annoyed users of the product, and then let's make the product better. But at the same time, Model 3 is the number 1 EV ever produced. It's the number 1 in terms of volume that Tesla's ever produced. And Model Y is going to probably pass it pretty quickly, but let's see what the Highland orders look like in Q3 and Q4. It may just, it may just take off itself. But so when you have that kind of volume leverage in the supply base, suppliers are fighting over this business. I guarantee you, when they went out with the 50%, new componentry, and they went out to the supply base, I'm sure there were suppliers literally fighting for this business. So I have a feeling that, again, I understand why the prices are a little bit higher. First off, there's more features in this product. They've added stuff. They've added, double pane windows. They've made the seats more comfortable perforated, ventilated, the second screen, like, even the main screen in the car, people think it looks, consistent, but it's actually a new screen. It's got better contrast ratios. So there's a bunch of plus one features that are readily apparent to the users. What I think Tesla did is, no pun intended, they went under the hood and they've simplified a bunch of components under the hood. And that could also be, those could also be new components where they simplified and replaced an old component. But I think they started with the consumer, what's facing the consumer, what's the consumer to satisfy, or what can we just make better? And they went after that. That's a bunch of the changes. And I think the other changes were for simplification of the product. I think it's going to do extremely well. In terms of the not launching in North America, all I can hypothesize is that they probably need to do further simplification, maybe of the chassis. Maybe they're going to do some castings and combine more components in the chassis. Maybe they're waiting for this new M3P battery out of Cattle, which is why Tesla has indicated in 2024 that the rebate on the Model 3 may not be $7,500, throughout that entire year. We're just speculating, but those are some of the thoughts that come to mind.
That's interesting. So you think that actually the rebate obviously is linked to the batteries, and if they use a different battery, that's why the rebate could be less or even inexistent?
Well, if the cell assembly has to be in the U.S. and the pack assembly has to be in the U.S. And if any one of those, obviously you wouldn't move the pack out and keep the cell here. But let's say the cell is not made here, for example, then that would reduce it. They're also going to increase the requirements on where the source minerals are coming from as well. Are they from the U.S. or favorite trading partners? So there's a number of variables that kick in as the IRA advances. But just one hypothesis that came to mind is that they want to go for this new battery from Cattle, better range, better performance, lower cost potentially when it ramps. And then again, finally, one other quick thing is why is it high in the current? Why are the MSRPs higher in the current region? Because supply is going to be less than demand for a long period of time. All of those new components need to get to their peak yield, their peak run rate in their individual factories, and until they do that, they're going to be kind of a higher cost to produce. But once they do and they do settle, Tesla's going to have their hand out saying, I want part of that, and they'll take it to the bottom line.
Which would also explain why we don't have the performance model yet, right? Which would also obviously give us a little explanation on that side. The other thing I heard, and I have no confirmation on that side, is that they will build up a production line for Model 3 in Austin. So currently it's only produced in Fremont and in Shanghai, but that it will be produced in Austin as well. So that could be the other reason why North America is not there yet, right?
Where are you hearing that from little birds that DM you directly? Is that what's happening?
They do. I have so many little birds. I tell
trust it?
This one I trust enough that I actually threw it out to a couple of bigger accounts, and everybody found it interesting, but nobody has any confirmation. So, but I mean, I agree with you. I have, between 10 and 50 little birds per day, and I have to be very careful what it is. But this one seems to be more substantiated than a lot of the other ones. Christian, Xander, what do you all think of the Model 3?
So actually, a follow up on that. Is it possible that they are doing, how Elon said that they can't change the wheels on a moving bus? And is it possible that they're going to bring, would you change Fremont, or would you add a new line to Austin and then get that up and running, get those deliveries going, then change Fremont? Doesn't that make logical sense if you were to try to change the vehicle?
I mean, from my perspective, from doing these kind of cutovers in the past, you would do basically, if you can visualize if you're looking at the side of stair steps, and in each one of those steps is a line. What you would want to do is if you've got, a volume runner, which Model 3 is, it's 30% of what 30% of what Tesla builds. You don't necessarily want to, if you want to redo the staircase, you don't necessarily want to knock the whole thing down so people can't get up and down, you would kind of go one level at a time. So basically do a line conversion and then run the other lines at, maybe, I'll just use simple math. If you've got 8 lines, globally, I'm not saying they do for the Model 3, but you would run each of those at maybe 10% higher rates and utilization to make up for the one line you take down. And I believe that's the approach they've been doing. I think that's one of the reasons why there was very little, there was acceleration actually in August in Shanghai output from July. So I believe that's what they're actually doing in terms of Fremont versus Austin. I mean, that would be strange to me. The only thing I could think of them doing is maybe the Model 3 and the original Model 3 and the original Model Y lines were very close in terms of reuse. And then what they would do in Fremont is just swallow those old Model 3 lines and convert them. Maybe it was a lower CapEx move to move them to Model Y lines than to put them to refresh Model 3 lines. I don't know if that's the case, but those are the things that companies consider. But to build a whole new line and qualify a whole new operation out of Austin, I would be concerned about just like, boy, what's the lead time to get a Model 3 in North America? So I think they're converting. I honestly think they're converting lines in Fremont. And I think, again, they've got to take more cost out of the vehicle to make it economically viable for where they want to sell it in North America, because the cost structure to build a vehicle in Shanghai is that much lower than it would be to build here. So they've got to do some more simplification work. And I think they're waiting on a better battery.
Yeah. I think we've also heard about permits for demolition of certain areas for the preparing for this in Fremont. But if they were going to do a whole new line in Texas, we would have heard about it. But quick comment about Jeff. Have you guys been listening to the words he uses? He says volume runner or +1 feature. Oh my gosh, I love it. I'm going to write down all the things he does. It says it's so brilliant.
Yeah, so it's wrong to think about it. Yeah, you do charge for that. It's wrong to think about it in the terms of taking down an entire line. So you're saying or an entire production capability. It's about taking down one of the lines and then switching them over one piece by piece. That's a good message. Thank you.
Yeah. By the way, when they did Model S and X refresh, they took it down. I mean, there wasn't any Model S or X, I think, for over a year. So that was one where it's like, all right, this is a very small percentage of what we're building. We're not going to keep this way. And there was a lot of differences between those two vehicles. So, but yeah, so I don't know what Tesla's going to do.
Exactly.
How many lines did they have anyway?
Of S
very
and X,
small,
or
right?
of the 3?
Yeah, of S, right? So like the volume of S, like all the features of the S, or most of them, except maybe the air suspension, have been brought down to the 3. They've said there's no reason for them to continue to do S and X except for very sophisticated buyers. So and it doesn't further their mission. So at that time with the S, how many lines were there? It was probably just
2,
it wasn't
right?
a scale, right?
Yeah. I think it was 2. But I mean, the other thing I'm wondering is, so Fremont is currently not producing the old Model 3, of course. So they are switching to the new one, right? Don't you think it's possible, if they expect really high volume of the Highland in the United States, that they will have one line or the multiple lines that they have in Fremont continue doing the Model 3 and start at the same time building up the Austin one? Christian or Jeff?
Yeah, they bet. I mean, I in general, like, I don't know why they don't make Model 3 out of Austin. Like, Model 3 is a great car. Like, to me, I love that car. I love the sleekness of it. I love the new one. But they should make Model 3 in Austin. I don't know why they don't. That place is gigantic. It could handle Model 1, Model Y, CyberTruck. I don't know why they couldn't do some Model 3 with that 7500 coming. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's a staple car. Like, the Model 3 will sell, I think, as that rebate of 7,500 and all the state come more, people learn about it. I think that car will sell well. So I think they should be able to put some of that. So, Herbert, why do you think that?
The reason is because Giga Texas, Giga Austin is going to be 100% CyberTruck and bots. It's going to be all bots. That's what this
And
is.
no
for.
Model Y anymore?
Okay,
No,
Model Y.
no,
No.
Herbert, no.
You're gonna bankrupt the company, Herbert.
All new. If you follow the numbers, if you do the business cases, of course, we all have been diving deep. It just makes so much sense for them to just double, triple, quadruple down on bots and have factories upon factories of this. And guess what? Guess what's happening in November? Somebody just reminded me of
Kristen's going to blow a gasket. Look at him. Look at him. He's covering his head.
What is happening in November regarding bots? Do you guys remember? Who was it?
Yeah, that's when production should be up. Or was it today?
Right,
No,
so-
I just remember that that Elon said they should be ready with the production by November.
Right. If he took his words, I'm trying to give him credit because I can't remember who said it actually. Was it Tesla Economist? Was it? Anyways, he tweeted
No, I
out
saw
saying
that
that if you look at
yeah.
the
I think it
quote
was
from Elon said
Tesla Talk.
Tesla Talk. Yep. He said that if you look at the quote from Elon at the last earnings call, he said that we're slowed down in the bots. We're making maybe 10 a month, but that's because we have to get the production level version of the actuators. And once we're going to be able to start scaling in around maybe November. So
okay, then let me tell you what I think will happen. I think the bot will be done in Fremont only. And yes.
You guys are all in La La Land. You're in La La Land.
Is that one of your
Bring it
birdies
back
telling
in.
you this?
Bring it
That's
back
wrong.
No, this is me now speculating. Why not? The bot assembly is much easier than the car assembly, no? And then Austin is so much bigger and has so much land around it to do all the other things, all the cars.
Well,
So
I
move
think
the Model
eventually they're
3
going
to
to-
Austin.
Yes.
No, I
But the
think
Model
eventually they're gonna
3
make
and
bots.
the Y, where?
everywhere. No, they're going to make
Everywhere,
bots
yeah.
everywhere. But we got to look at there's breadcrumbs. There's a job posting for somebody who's a technical program manager to create a manufacturing line. That's in Nevada. I think that's where they're going to
So
start.
the bot goes
first.
to Nevada?
Correct. Mhm.
What
think
will
that's where they're
stay
gonna
in
start building it.
Fremont? What will stay in Fremont? Because
I-
that's actually another theme I want to bring up, because Farzad has brought this up, thinking maybe they will discontinue the S and the X. That this is the last existence of those two at these prices, and then when that's done, that's done. So what will stay at Fremont? Model 3? No way.
Yeah, why not Model
So, wait,
3? It's a
what's-
great car.
Wait,
Because Fremont
What's
is
the
not
logic?
a gigafactory. It's obviously more than just tens, but I mean it is not logical. It doesn't have the whole structure that the new
So are
form
you
of
saying that
gigafactories-
that Fremont, there'll be no more cars, just bots?
That's what I think, because I
And what
do
will they be
believe
doing?
that
What will the bots
Well,
be doing?
we're
Making bots?
building bots. Exactly.
Bots
Bots
building bots?
no, so I mean, Alexandra, the thing is that you've already got Fremont working. It's already scaling. It's already happening, right? You're going to break all that down. If you're going to create bots, which is a completely different setup, you'd wipe everything out, start from scratch. Why wouldn't you, build a new building in Giga Texas and build a new building as you're doing it, right? Why
Well,
would you
because you have the Fremont
something that
factory, and
exists?
you may want to continue, at least have some production there. But I do believe this is me speculating. I may be completely off and completely wrong here. But in my 3 to 5 year vision as the US production side, I do believe all the car production will be in Austin and not anymore in California. I mean, it had to stay in California.
I see.
Austin was building up,
Mhm.
and the first priority was bringing out these Ys in a huge quantity. The next priority now is to bring out the CyberTrucks. But I do believe it's actually in the plans. I may be completely wrong on this one, to put the Model 3 there as well. We will talk in a second about the cheaper model, where that will be produced, and to use the Fremont factory, if ever you want to still use it for something, and I think they do want to do that, for something that is easier to assemble and make a completely new floor plan for Fremont for that. Again, this is speculation. I may be completely wrong, and we might want to probably move on to other things rather than talking about this for too long. But I have a feeling that's what they want to go, and really put Austin as the production site for cars.
I'll end it with a little speculation, then we can move it. So I love the idea, but I don't think bots are going to be done in any meaningful way. So, what Elon said was they'll be kind of useful, right? We already know there's probably some in the factories doing some things, but this is still going to take a few years before, you see any noticeable improvements from bots manufacturing anything. So I still think Fremont's got a lot to do. I still think bots is a little bit of way off. So as excited as we are that someone saw Elon say that, Elon says a lot of things. And it's probably true that some bots are doing some useful things, but to scale that's going to take years. So I don't think it's going to do anything dramatic in 2024 as far as bot goes. That's just my speculation.
But before we move on, can we get Jeff's feedback on that? Because I would think that like the sunk cost and it might be less efficient, but it's still a profitable way to do it, right, Jeff?
Yeah, sorry, I was just booking another half hour in my calendar tomorrow to defend Christian in the comments, on the YouTube comments tomorrow after what he said about bots, which is holy ground. Elon. So I just booked that time. No, I think from a fixed cost perspective, first off, I think it's really hard to speculate on some of this stuff. It's fun. I would go with where the job posting is for the boss. I think that's where it's going to start. It could be a small volume effort, and then they may I think they're going to, if you look at the volume that Elon has talked about for bots, they're going to build it in every factory possible. I can imagine, because you would actually want production of these things as close to where they're going to land as much as possible, versus having to think about trying to transport these things around. They're kind of they would be a bit awkward to kind of transport around. So anyway, I think that's what's going to happen with that. In terms of the other things, it's going to be really hard to speculate. I think we should get an update, though. Maybe we go into the Mexico topic in a bit. I mean, I think we should get an update of what's happening right now. Maybe we'll get that right on the earnings call in terms of what's going on with the production plans for future sites and current sites from Tesla.
Yeah, I think we should go there now because it's really a good moment. So we've heard of delays for Giga Mexico. We've heard from Indonesia. I think it was the government representative saying he had a call a month ago with Elon, and Elon seemed to be worried about EV volume needed, and so the whole Indonesia project seems to be at least pushed back, if not more. We had some rumors about Canada now announcing a Gigafactory, but actually when you looked at it, it was in Quebec. The French-speaking TV in Quebec announced that this is not at all for Tesla. This is for one of those battery providers. I think it was Northvolt or something like that. I don't remember the name correctly. So from all these three most promising new locations, none is currently confirmed. None is making progress. I mean, Mexico is confirmed, but we're on hold. I've had somebody who drove by there a week ago sent me a video. There was nothing happening there. So it's a bit strange, right? That nothing moves. We had this international tour of Elon. I think it was in July when he was visiting all these head of states, and there was all this excitement on what's next and what news is coming. I also want to recall that end of last year, we had hoped for 2 announcements of Gigafactory. Then finally, beginning of the year, we got Mexico, but since then, nothing happened. So it feels a little bit delayed, right? What feeling do you all have?
Yeah, I feel it's a big disappointment. I remember, I think last year, everybody was saying, oh, we're going to have 8 announcements, 6 announcements of factories all over the world. Well, we got one. It was Mexico. And they were supposed to do something this summer. Like, I would think they would have broke ground. And actually, you could have seen some of a building being, starting to be erected. And we have nothing. So again, it's long term. It's not going to matter. But it's a bit disappointing for the mission that they haven't done anything to build a gigafactory in Mexico after it's been announced. And, it's 8 months later, 9 months later, and nothing's happened. So, yeah, as an investor, it's disappointing that Mexico has been held up for whatever reason. I've seen different speculations, but just in general, the fact that nothing's happening as of today, that's disappointing from a shareholder perspective and a mission perspective.
I agree. Xander, what do you think?
I really want to see the unboxed method and what that will do for for the economics of the business. So yeah, it's a little bit disappointing that we're not, it's all red tape now, and you would have hoped that Mexico would be different than the United States with their shenanigans, or Germany with their shenanigans. So
That's true.
but maybe there's something big that we don't understand about what happens.
Yeah, and don't, I mean, I had that feeling, and I published that video from German TV maybe 3 weeks ago. It was on a weekend, that they're gonna triple the size of Berlin. There seems to be lots of things undergoing to extend Austin. Maybe we're back to the strategy, rather than going into all these different locations, we just stick with where we were and do those expansions in the first time, rather than, running around. But nevertheless, I mean, we had the mega factory build out in Nevada. That's the same principle. We had a smaller size. This is going to be upgraded to a bigger size. Does that make sense, Jeff, to you? Do you think it's more, coming back to where we already are, rather than building up new sites?
Well, I've always been an advocate of, you spend all this money and you have all this additional land around the sites you plan for, which I think they do a great job of. And I do think that that's what they're doing. They're going to be taking advantage of the existing sites. There's a couple of things that are just moving targets that are really in the favor of Tesla. One is they treat the factory like a product. So what they mean is they have metrics for the performance of these factories. One of the key metrics is around output per square meter, and as they continue to improve that output per square meter, they need less floor space to deliver the same amount of cars or the same amount of objects, whatever they're building. So all along, so they can have a multi-year plan for factories, and really the location is really more about, where is the source of supply, and where are the where are these going to from an end customer perspective. And if you can get closer to a population than you were before, and you can reduce that logistics time and those logistics costs, and you could be closer to source minerals, for example, those are all reasons to build another facility, because the EV adoption rate is going to continue growing. So in Mexico, it's a little bit hard to speculate. I'm a little bit surprised that it's delayed, to this point. Things happen, but what I would say is, I do think they are. If you look at the expansion plans for each of these sites, like you mentioned, Alexandra, they are going to leverage those. I do think Mexico is going to happen, and I just think they just have to work through this bit of a delay.
Herbert,
So
you
if I
always
can
have
just
good news. Tell me exactly.
Yeah, not necessarily good news, but I mean, this is Sawyer. Just to explain to people that it came from a Forbes Mexico article that cited an official document saying that the permit approval for the construction of Giga Mexico has been delayed. I will say, though, that the whole purpose of this Giga Mexico specifically was for the unbox model. So I don't expect that you can do the unbox model in an expansion of one of the existing. Certainly not Fremont, right? Maybe not even Giga Berlin, unless it's a brand new factory. Maybe they'll accelerate that, but it is disappointing. Now, I had this conversation with Brian White, and he was just saying that at this point, why stick with Giga Mexico? Go pick another country like Shanghai and get started right away, or pick another place. But I had to remind myself that there has been at least 25 vendors and suppliers that have communicated that they were going to already invest significant billions of dollars to relocate, to be right around Giga Mexico. Now, that could just have been words yet, haven't actually been actions. Maybe they delayed some of that, but this is not an easy thing where we're just going to create another site, right? This has taken years. And so I don't know why it's taken this long. The whole point of why they picked Mexico was, I assume, is because they'd already negotiated the permits and it was going to go faster. And so this is definitely a shock. And in some cases, it's actually as bad or maybe worse than Germany.
It is, right? And so the one thing I clearly remember was, I think it was in March or April, Rohan Patel going there in Mexico, and we had this promise by this Mexican government official saying we will make this happen quickly, and we were already speculating that groundbreaking would be in June. Right now we're in September. Actually, June was already later than we expected, so that came June. Now we're September. I mean, I'm looking forward to the earnings call in October, because maybe some people will ask that question: where are we with all these expansion plans? Because Mexico wasn't supposed to be less bureaucratic and less complicated, and they're already the craziest speculation of why suddenly Mexico is slowing down. Do they have any influence from the Biden administration? I mean, there are lots of things flying around, but in any case, it is surprising. It is. I mean, I really hope for some announcement sooner or later, and hope that's coming soon. Indonesia actually bothered me even more. You know, it could be that the government is, face saving and just saying these things so that they can blame somebody else and don't have to address their own problems or whatever. But I mean, it's a lot. There was the Canadians who came to Fremont. It looked like a seal deal. Nothing happened. There was Indonesia. It looked like a seal deal. Nothing happens. It is a seal deal with Mexico, but it is delayed. So it's all quite more complicated than people anticipated and takes a much longer time.
Yeah, just one other comment. These suppliers, that if there are suppliers leaking and saying, "Oh, my plans changed by a few months," or they'll be removed from the project. They're clearly breaking an NDA if they're talking publicly or leaking regarding that. So Tesla will find out who's doing that, and they'll be dealt with. You can't.
And the government.
As a supplier, you can't. Yeah. As a supplier, you cannot discuss your plans with a company like Tesla. In terms of the government, that's harder to control.
Spain. But remember Spain? I mean, Spain looked very promising for another factory in Europe. No idea whether it would be Megapacks or whatever, but Spain is gone for the moment. They're certainly on the bottom of the list, if they're even on the list anymore, just by talking too much. It took half a day for Tesla to react. They usually don't react, but this one was a slap, and that was it.
I believe they've been removed.
Bad news.
They were removed. I don't think they're ever coming back. The way Tesla announced that they were not under consideration at all. Yeah.
Agree with you. So what do you expect? Because we're now in the last 3 weeks of this quarter. What do you expect in terms of production delivery? We know that Austin has now closed down, right? Is Austin closed now? So let's start with Christian. Let's do it. So
from what I see, so I just took a poll on this yesterday, and I was actually kind of surprised. I think I put on there, what do you think we're going to do? 450 under 450, 450 to 460, 460 for 70s, just getting an idea, right? And I think more than half or close to half had like 460 or under, which just from a historical perspective, right, would put Tesla quarter over quarter, because they did 466 in Q2. These are deliveries now, under what they did the previous quarter if we get under a 466. So there are a lot of people expecting that Tesla will not be increasing deliveries quarter over quarter. And I get it. On the quarter, Elon talked about production, but he did not talk about deliveries. So, just in general, if I think we see a decrease in deliveries because we still have a lot of inventory from Q2 to be sold through, I think that would be kind of a negative, right? That just doesn't look good when a growth company, especially at least you're growing in units, quarter over quarter is now decelerating, right? As we're still ramping two big factories like Berlin and Austin. So again, it's not a huge deal, but I think it will be a psychological thing for investors to hear that, and CNBC will pump it up. Tesla misses quarter over quarter deliveries are down. So that'll be a big thing. Again, long term, it won't matter. But I think this will be interesting because I think Jeff is more bullish on deliveries. I think, and he can speak for it, but I think he's over 470. So there is kind of a split going on. You got some people thinking they're going to do well with deliveries, but you have other people looking at 450 to 460 areas. So I think this Q3 will be very interesting to see how many cars get delivered.
Jeff, there you go. Defend your numbers.
Yeah, I believe Tesla when they say, no worries. I believe Tesla when they say, production is going to be lighter. We're doing these upgrades because they're doing that. And but on deliveries, they had, I think, north of 80 or 90,000 cars in inventory leaving the quarter. That's not a bad thing. People think like having inventory is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. If it were zero, their sales would slow down and you'd be wondering like what else is going on. You don't want that. So I think they're going to burn through a bunch of that inventory to kind of, plug a little bit of the hole of these rolling shutdowns. And I do think they'll deliver more than they did in the prior quarter. I could be wrong. I know there's a lot of people that do this, I don't say for a living, but they do charge for it, and their numbers are well south of. I think I'm gonna call it at 472K right now. That's my number, and I'm sure I'll update it between now and the end of the quarter. I know people had updated 24 hours before the end of the quarter, and post that. So I'll probably update it between now and then. But I think. No, it's fine. I mean, I think you're allowed to update your numbers as you learn new information. I think analysts do that. Totally fine. So I think that's where I'm at today. But I think the market is going to look ahead. I think the market. I think this is one good thing that the management team did well on the earnings call, which is they basically ripped the Band-Aid, said, "We're doing these upgrades. Production's going to be light. Maybe deliveries are going to be a little bit light too." But they didn't say that. But I think they ripped a bit of the Band-Aid on that last earnings call. Allows them to do the upgrades in the factory. They should be getting more efficiency, lower costs, allowing them to build a Model 3 and so forth. So as a look ahead, this could all be a really nice package of reducing existing inventory, which was built at the old cost structure, which is why I think gross margins are going to be a little bit of a mixed bag. Reducing inventory, improving free cash flow as a result of doing that, and then getting Model 3 ramped up. It sounds like the ramp is going very well in Shanghai on the new Model 3, and then of course getting CyberTruck ramped in the quarter in the following quarter in greater volumes. I think the markets are going to look ahead. And the other thing I think Tesla has to do in Q4 is they're going to have to replenish some of the inventory that they burned off this quarter, and they have to prepare, at least in the US, for the IRA going to point of sale, because now people are going to drive the thing that people are most sensitive to is what's that monthly payment. And when the IRA moves to point of sale, you're literally go to bed December 31st and January 1st, wake up and a Tesla is going to be 15-20% cheaper depending on the model. I think they're going to have a lot of inventory to deal with that.
Yeah, I want to remind people too, if I can, Alexandra, that it's easy to be fearful and wait for, everything to fall under. But if you step back and think about it objectively, I've not seen anything negative. I mean, we just had Shanghai report pretty significant record August sales, and they're on path to a record quarter. Elon and team had already, explained that there's going to be slowdowns. They use the words just small or minor. But I mean, even if they do fall below in terms of deliveries for the quarter, again, I agree with Jeff that it's going to be like people are looking forward. It's already built in. They already understood this. It's not going to be a big shocker for people if it is lower. But at the end of the day, why do people think it is going to be lower? Can you share with me what has actually happened? The economy seems to be kind of leveled out. There's nothing bad news coming from the economy necessarily. Things are actually looking like it's in fact improving. I think at the end of the day, this is just still happening. Now it's September. So we're waiting for, if there really was a major miss, would we not already start hearing, price changes, significant ones on the big ones, and why in 3, would we not seeing major, movements in referrals and advertising or things like that?
That could be to come. That could be to come.
I have a couple of things to add. China is going to be closed last few days of September. I think it's 2 days in September and then 6 days in October. It's their national week where they're always closed. So keep that in mind, because that means, and I think that means the Highland deliveries will start after that. I don't think they're delivering before that. The second point I want to make is North America, Model 3. Do you really expect Q4 with the old model still as high sales as now, knowing that the Highland is out, but people can't get it yet? I think we will see a slowdown in Model 3 in the fourth quarter in North America. I mean, there will be buyers who will take it because they need a car, but I do believe the people that can delay their purchases are going to delay it until the Highland is up, because especially now, everybody sees how beautiful it is and how good looking it is. And the third point I wanted to make is Model S and Model X up to this morning had deliveries in September, October, meaning they were still possible to be included at these new lower prices in this month's delivery. I know they're only a part of it, but this morning it switched to October, November. So if you order a Model S or X now, it's not going to be delivered in September anymore. So I think they're full. They also lowered the referral bonus that you get for bringing a new buyer for an S and X from $1,000 to $500. So all this means the Model S and X is at their capacity, which is about 20,000 per quarter. So I do believe those are sold and ready to be delivered, and whatever is ordered now is going to spill over into Q4. So with all that, my number is around 460. For me, it's impossible to say for 450 or 470 because it's really only a matter of availability now. It's less a matter of production with the production sites down. So, Xander, we didn't hear your number, nor Herbert. So you want to add those?
Yeah, my number is 580 units lower than 470. And I had a question regarding.
That's so cute.
Yeah, you got that? You got that? Very good.
I didn't get it. I didn't get it at all.
Yeah, 469, 420 for the slow people.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
We don't we don't know when the Highland comes to the US. So I think the Osborning effect is being managed pretty well, pretty smart, in my opinion. And I had a question though, Tesla's putting pressure on the consumer to take delivery of Model 3 or Y. Or X in this case, now before the end of the year, saying that the IRA may be reduced. Do we know why they're saying that? Is it the battery chemistry might change, or what's the reasoning behind why it would be reduced at the end of the year?
Jeff already answered that question.
Yeah, I think it's just where the batteries are coming. Yeah,
It may change the battery sourcing on the new 3. That's what's being speculated. Nobody knows for sure.
Okay, so on December 31st, they wait and make the change then because it'll be at point of sale.
No, I don't think it's going to be like a knife switch like that. They're just saying, in the following year, the rebate may change.
Yeah, they're not guaranteeing that next year it will be all the time 7,500. It could be, but they want to warn people that for this year they can commit. They can't commit for next year.
Okay, so Alexandra, do you still feel, what you just said regarding?
Well, what I do feel is,
Q4?
I do feel is if I would today have to choose a Model 3, I would like a Highland. If I can wait, I rather wait for the Highland, no matter the tax return, than purchasing an old Model 3 that is produced in Q4. It's not an old car; it's a brand new car, but that has the old look. So I do believe in North America we may have an effect of that. Yes.
Yeah. But if you would wait until mid the summer of 24.
Well,
I would wait.
Like to
They keep cutting prices. They keep cutting prices. Wait till it goes lower.
Model 3, they're not cutting prices on the new one.
Well, on the 3, it's actually going up. Exactly.
Right.
So let's see what North
America looks like, though. Yeah.
Exactly. But let's say your choice in North America would be a 10% higher price, no guarantee on the tax return. Xander is right to point that out. And you don't know when. So let's say in your scenario, it could be in May next year, it would cost 10% more and you don't get the tax return. Is that still more attractive than getting it in October and have the tax return?
It's possible that this will fit in very nicely into its own new segment. the current Model 3 versus the Highland Model 3, that's the way you guys are playing it out in terms of the pricing, in terms of the value and the looks. And maybe there's going to be still people wanting to buy the existing Model 3 because it's
I'd have the choice. You're right, Herbert. Maybe they're not just, cutting one to replace the other. Maybe for a while you can actually have either.
The current Model 3, if they cut the price even just a little bit, $5,000, if they can do that, it fits into, while we're waiting for the compact car, this is, the one that we've been waiting for, the sub $35,000 mass produced car. maybe that's when they can do that until they sell out of the existing Model 3 in the US, and then the new one comes in, and maybe at that point, when it's by itself, they can lower it a little bit.
Would they try to, the efficiencies of the shared parts between the 3 and the Y? Is it possible that they do, both concurrently for, scale
Juniper?
of the parts? Yeah. Is that possible or probably not?
You mean run 2 versions of the Model 3 indefinitely?
No. I mean, switch over to the 3 and the Y at the same time, because why would you, if you're sharing parts, why would you continue to produce those parts if the supply chain needs to convert? You're going to want to shift both.
You can do one. I mean, the volumes are so high on these vehicles for them that they could do one and then do the other when the other one's ready. I haven't heard that the Y would be anywhere close to being ready.
Sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, Alexander. Xander, I mean, the Y is a massive #1 sales behemoth around the globe. There's no rush at this point to try to change it, update it. Just, you've got it gone scaling across the world. Just keep going at it. And
yeah, it is.
Like Jeff said, it's already at scale now. So I don't know if they need to rush Juniper, which is the revised Model Y.
Why is it rushing it though? If you already made the changes to the 3, then it's just bring it over.
They had to shut down the production lines. They had to 50% of the parts for the Model 3 is new. So this isn't just a simple fix.
And do we have any speculation? We didn't hear Elon talk about the Model 3 refresh at all. He didn't even say anything about it. Do you think he wasn't really in favor of it and the team kind of pushed him there? Or, anyone want to, I think that's important. I think, why didn't Elon make a mention of it? Any guesses? I don't know.
Osborning.
Yeah.
No, it's only in China. It's not even in the US.
I'll repeat what Jeff says. I keep track of all the words he says. That until the minute, until the hour, until the day that it happens, you're not going to hear them talk about it. The minute the hour,
it already
use that word.
It happens.
Well, no, of course. You mean Nick now? Why hasn't he said anything now? Okay,
yeah.
That's again, it's like it's the sales are happening. It's in limited numbers. It's
didn't happen here.
Right. It's not happening in here. That's why he's not. That's why he doesn't need to.
Agreed.
He doesn't need to tell everybody it's here when it's not really here in the U.S. It's in limited numbers in China still.
Oh, you think that's why he was not commenting? You think that's why he was not making, because it's not ready in the US?
We're reading way too much into it too. I mean, come on. It's like,
okay.
It's clearly been marketed heavily in China. Like they've got amazing, full on events and videos and commercials. And
sure.
It's everybody in China knows.
And in Europe, it's at the Munich Auto Show, and they can order them. Now the other question I had, the other question I had is the CyberTruck event. If you had 30,000 points, referral points for the last 2 weeks, you could get an invite and then invite a +1. That disappeared today. So what is your take on it? Does that give us a clue on the date? Does it give us a clue on, are they full already? Is it going to be a small event and this is it? Because, yes, we've heard of a couple of dozens of people who were able to get it, but it wasn't as if it's hundreds and thousands of people now ready for the event. So what interpretation do you have on that subject?
I think it's full. This is a highly expected, desired, tremendous amount of people want to be here. They've already accomplished what they need to do. The referrals have been successful. Here we've got the latest spotted supercharging was this latest CyberTruck, and actually on the actual CyberTruck itself, it said release candidate, and it's like it's already at that point. Release engineering prototype is basically what it was labeled as. So that's very clearly, on its way. We seem to. It's this battle between optimism and pessimism, and people like to be like fear. I just look at the facts. There's a lot of CyberTruck sightings out there. This is now a release candidate. They've announced the event. They gave out a referral code. Now they stopped the referral code. Most obvious reason is that the event is full. Why doesn't that make sense? Why are we trying to find some? negative thing.
Yeah, good point, Herbert. I think that it's just Tesla's MO. They give back to the employees that worked on these lines. If there's anything that we saw from like the semi event, the cyber rodeo, they want the people that make this happen. It's a celebration for them primarily. And obviously the delivery is a big deal. So I think it's just sold out. There's enough, if it's 50 people or 100, plus their plus one. So I think it's just moving forward. And I'd like to know the date. It's so bizarre to not know a date or
you don't know the date,
price.
Xander. We'll let you know when we're ready.
Because he's in Austin now. He wants to be there.
I'm
right?
Elon. We'll let you know
Until the
when we're ready,
moment,
all right?
the hour, and the day.
The day.
Yeah.
They'll let you
Then
know.
you'll know.
I don't even know where in the Starbase. I'm ready to drive over there. Bradford's telling me they might do a surprise and just get a license and just launch it an hour later. I'm like, come on, I'm 6 hours away. I need to...
I've got a theory.
Oh, tell us.
Well, the theory is
forget
why
your
did
theory.
oh
No,
Go ahead,
tell
go
us.
ahead.
why
Blaine,
did
go ahead.
Tesla, after 8 years, finally decide to go to the Detroit Auto Show, which is happening next week? And so, is it a possibility now? Clearly, the Cybertruck will be there, and the model. Brian White has been calling the Model Highland refresh as Model 3 Fresh. I like that. The Model 3 Fresh, the Cybertruck,
Cute.
they will be there.
I like
This
that.
could be a perfect opportunity to actually do a launch
Steal
event.
it. Steal
Now,
the
I don't
show.
know if it's before or after, but they're going to be there. But why did they just automatic 8 years later they decide to show up? Tell me why.
No, I agree with you, and it's perfect.
No, you tell me
it's
why.
also
You're
a
supposed to give us a
No,
theory.
because
Why?
now they're dominating. They're there. They're the star number one. They're not just a little EV company in a corner. This is going to be their moment to shine. I love it. I love all about it.
I love it. I just get in the car and drive up to Detroit. It's pretty close to me.
There you go.
Yeah, but Alexandra, they've been a big company for the last couple of years. Herbert
but
was
there was
supposed to
never-
tell us his theory.
There was never anything.
He didn't give
There
us
was
his
never
theory.
anything. Well, he will tell us, but there was never something in September to be
theory.
launched in the last year or two. His theory is that it's happening, and I do believe it's happening. I agree with you, Herbert.
I
don't know what he said. He said he's going to give me a theory, and they're there, and he didn't give me the theory why they're there.
They will launch
You
the
weren't
Cybertruck
listening.
in Detroit.
Oh,
There's
at the
no
auto
theory.
show.
I don't think the
Just that
Cybertruck's going to be there. Everyone said the Cybertruck wasn't going to be there.
Who
said that?
Why wouldn't you bring it? Why wouldn't you
It's been-
bring it? You
I don't
Why
know.
wouldn't you
Why
bring
wouldn't
it?
you bring it?
Okay, so first of all, the Cybertruck is not
Well, we'll
a secret
see. We'll
prototype
see.
anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's like everywhere. People have taken videos of this and all around. So why wouldn't you already take one and have it showcased there, right? That's the most
Yeah.
obvious thing. It's
A
gonna
couple
be.
When is the Detroit?
Come
When is
on.
it? When is the event?
It's next week. It starts next week and it goes on for a number of days. And so my guess is September 16th is the actual day. It's called the public, the day that they kind of showcase all sorts of the cars. So my guess is September 16th. But I mean, it's like, it doesn't. They're just going to be there. I don't think it's going to be the actual delivery event. It doesn't make sense. They're going to create that delivery event. It's going to be a big coming out party. I expect it to be big too, and that's why I am a little shocked that they did. They stopped it after a couple weeks, but there might be enough people that have actually signed up right away. I mean, it only took 3 referrals, and so we know that there's thousands and thousands of us that have that already.
I'm sure Tesla will get a lot of good press and advertising out of the event, so I think it'll be good.
So that's actually what I don't think it's they're going to be launched on that day. I disagree with
I'm not
that.
saying that. I didn't say that.
I know you didn't say that. But you kind of alluded to it. But I think what to answer your question about the 8 years, I think it has to do with before we were supply constrained. So why are you going to try to show up to these events and try to market the vehicle? And obviously there's a cost involved with showing up to these things. While now, with the economy, I think that it has, it's a good marketing or, it's not
Advertising? Is Tesla advertising at this event?
I mean, this is how they do it, right? This is how they do it. They don't do the traditional Gary Black way. They do the referral thing and the word of mouth thing. So that's my theory.
Now, to finish
Sounds
with some
good.
good news, we learned Thursday morning that Hilton is going to install in most of their locations 20,000 wall connectors, meaning the destination chargers, which is obviously great, which is a very good news, and which I feel is overdue. You know, travelers need to have the security in the hotels. Whenever we travel, I choose my hotels because they have destination chargers from Tesla. That is my number one criteria, because I want to make sure I can conveniently charge overnight. So I think this didn't get enough attention from the stock exchange and the press, but it's absolutely excellent news. And that also means they're not installing these EVM or whatever else, EV America, whatever chargers. They are committed to Tesla chargers. They want the Tesla drivers to be the Hilton guests, which I think is perfect.
And Alexandra, what's the number 2 criteria for a hotel selection for you?
A quiet top floor king bed.
No, the hotel restaurant, 5-star.
No, not the hotel restaurant. Another restaurant close by. I
Okay.
agree that the destination is the restaurant, but then the hotel is the Tesla charger.
The hotels you go to, Alexandra, you don't drive there. You fly. You get
I
picked up.
don't.
You land on the ceiling and walk
the
off.
helicopter.
Yeah, you're back.
Gotta have a helipad, Jeff. If it doesn't have a helipad,
I am not a luxury chicken. I'm not.
You get out of the helicopter and you're given a nice lolly.
You're just taking the mickey. Let's move on to the stock market. So,
well, just a quick comment about the Hilton one.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a tsunami. This will be the first. You are going to hear many of them, because at first I was hoping that they were going to be announced about the Tesla superchargers, but now everybody's agreed, including recently Honda just announced yesterday that they've also jumped on board. You have to, at this point, to adopt the North American charging standard, which is Tesla. But now that Tesla offered both their supercharger, but this ability to be a universal charger for everything, it makes sense now for every organization to do this, not just Hilton, everyone. So we're going to hear Walmart, Costco, Target, McDonald's, they're all going to be doing this at this point. So it's amazing. If you add this all up and think about how much money Tesla's going to make, it's just crazy sleeper in terms of a business model.
Did we just see a picture of the level 2 charger with the dock
destination charger? Yeah.
Oh, this one.
Yes. Yeah. So that's for the house,
this
right?
Anyone could. Yeah. Yeah.
What they will
Alexandra,
put in is the destination charger. Yeah, that's not what they do.
This is not a destination charger.
No.
This is not a destination charger.
So
a universal wall connector.
Gotcha. So they're doing destination chargers, or they're doing the 20,000 universal wall connectors. So those are level 2, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So at the hotels, I went to a hotel and they had one of these on a post, and so I think that's smart about the universal part is Ford and GM and all they're still on an old standard, right? They're not going to move till 24. So by Tesla now offering this product, it makes a lot of sense that they can not keep it to only Teslas, even though that's 70% of the market in the US. So I think it's really smart that it will roll out, and I do agree that the stock isn't pricing this in quite yet, because but how much of a needle mover it is selling these products? It's just
it's little in terms of money. Exactly, it's still in terms of money, but it's a lot in terms of reputation and potential of replication. But let's move on to the stock market. You said the word. So will we see a year-end rally? And I mean, this is not only a question on Tesla. The market has been volatile, right? We're going to talk a little bit about Apple as well, which has a tough time these last couple of days. So, Christian, you're our stock guy before we move to Xander.
Yeah.
What do you think about the year-end rally now?
I mean, so no one knows, but historically, when the market's been this good, up to this year to date, even though September's a natural bad month, usually, the market usually rallies into year end, right? Because of the strong start, it usually historically does carry through. Now, that possibly could happen, but I heard like Herbert talk about macro getting better, And it's getting better, but I think now it's getting worse. Like you see the 10-year backing up, right? Rates are going higher, which makes everything more expensive, including Teslas and credit cards and everything you need to finance, mortgages, possibly, it's over 7.5%, maybe it goes to 8% if that 10-year keeps going up. We have the Fed, with no impetus to lower rates. If anything, it's higher for longer, maybe even another quarter point increase. So, I'm 50-50 here. I could see a stock market rally into the end of the year, but I also could see more recessionary things come up, which would cause, to me, the market to go down. Because I think right now we're almost priced with a lot of valuations, priced for perfection. If there is a hint that things are slowing and the consumer's slowing, such as student loans are about to hit, so people that have student loans are going to have to start paying on that. Credit cards over $1 trillion in balance, that is huge. We have the Feds issuing more debt, right? A lot of demand for that, which, people have to buy that. Banks have to buy that. Otherwise, those rates are going to go higher. So there's a lot of headwinds to keep the market going higher. I think it's possible, but I could also see things starting to unravel. I know we've talked about it before. I'm not making a prediction. I'm just talking about it. And, there's a lot of signs. It's just not pie in the sky thinking recession's coming. There's a lot of data pointing towards a recession. There's a lot of things the consumer looks like it's slowing down. You see retail, a lot of the retailers are struggling. Their margins are going down. They're having to discount a little bit. So there are signs. It's just taking a long time to actually see it come through, because when COVID hit, they literally printed trillions and trillions of dollars like we've never seen ever in the history of this country. I mean, tens of trillions were flying out the door. Interest rates were at zero. It takes, 12, 18, 24 months to see all these rate cuts finally hit. And when it hits, it's probably going to hit pretty hard, because consumers are going to start to pull back. And when they pull back, you get a slowdown in their spending. And we're 70% consumer spending GDP. That's where you get the little bit of a crimp. And that's how you could see a recession maybe in 24. Am I calling for one? No. Do I know? No. But I think you're putting your head in your sand if you don't think there is maybe a 30 to 40% chance of us getting one, and then the stock market reflecting it in a short time.
I love how you explain this. Honestly, I think you're the best at resuming exactly this mood, which is so particular. I agree with you. None of us has lived a pandemic before. None of us has come out. We've had rate hikes in this speed before. I mean, this one is really particular. Oh, Jeff is happy that I'm stroking Christian.
I just had a comment. So I was trying to understand. First off, I agree with what Christian said. A lot of it, just when he said you're putting your head in your sand. I think he was
in the sand. In the sand is what I meant.
Or you were saying you're putting your head up your.
No, head in the sand, meaning you can't see.
Okay, just making sure.
Just got it.
Is it always?
Thank you.
I think it was the former. I think it was the former.
For sure.
We'll have to play back the tape. We'll have to play back the tape.
Sure.
Oh no, you definitely said head in your sand. I thought the same thing.
Okay. But guys, it's always my role. It seems.
I think we get it.
Why is it always my role to try to not everybody doom and gloom? This is exactly every word you just said was exactly what you said 4 or 5 months ago when you said that the Feds.
Herbert, I've been right. Tesla stock's at 250. It's not a 400.
It's not the stock. We're talking macroeconomics right now.
Nowhere. I've been right. You've been wrong.
Whoa. We're not talking about the stock. We're talking about the economy right now, correct? Isn't it about the economy? Is there going to be a year-end rally? And then you said it's a 50-50, which basically is.
Yeah. No, he said
it can go this way, it can go this way. I mean, at the end of the day, again, I look at signs,
because my ego is in check enough that I'm not going to make a bold call that it's going to happen. Go ahead.
Okay. I mean, you can certainly be afraid and be careful of the fear that might happen. Absolutely. I'm not saying you do not do that. I'm not a person who don't look forward for potential signs. But at the end of the day, I also look at what is truly happening right now. And right now, there's an AI boom. My stats, or at least that I've seen, is that companies are reporting incredible earnings across the board, across the S&P 500s, I'm not seeing anything like you're saying. In fact, we know that the Fed is going to jawbone and talk about how there's going to be, increased rates. It's built in. The next 0.25% increase is already built in. With the deflation happening in China, the Fed here in the US cannot continue to raise rates at this point until you tell me that the deflation has been controlled in China. This is the issue here, that's what they're concerned about. So at the end of the day, I'm thinking, like, I'm not saying, the world can certainly go to crap. Absolutely, any moment it can go crap. If the market was doing amazing, like gangbusters, boom market, you'll be telling me, watch out, next 6 months, it could absolutely fall. It can fall. And certainly anything can happen, right? 50-50, either way. I agreed with you.
So let me just respond. And this is a friendly talk. I hold myself accountable. What I've been saying all year is, the market's rallied, and what the market's given me, then I've taken, right, when I see something happening. What I'm saying, though, is earnings are not gangbuster. Look at Apple. Apple earnings are nowhere. The market has gone up on valuation expansion. The multiples went up to 30. All the multiples are going up. Tesla's earnings year over year, a lot of Apple's earnings year over year are flat to negatives. There is no earnings explosion. So you keep talking about everything is rosy. No, it's not. Everything has been a valuation expansion. So if the earnings don't come through, which I don't know, maybe they do, but maybe they don't, like you're going to see a decline in these stock prices. So, the market can keep going higher. But what I'm saying is you also have to understand that there are actual facts on the ground. There are leading economic indicators that have been rolling over all year that points to recession. We have interest rates at all, the Fed is still going. And we've been talking about this for months, and I've been right. So let's talk about it. I said that rates would continue to go higher. I think a lot of people on this panel said that rates would not go this high, that the Fed would have to stop. If anything, they would be cutting by now. That has not happened. I've been right on that. I said the Fed would continue raising rates, and I've been right. So, we could go back and forth, but, I've been right about a lot of stuff too. You've been right about some stuff, but the Fed is very tight right now, and they're giving us no indication that they're going to get loose anytime. So I think the macro is still a big question.
Christian,
was that? Just add I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I think what the play is between now and the end of the year is, first off, you're both right. It's just different metrics. So the earnings performance of companies in terms of like what they said they were going to earn versus what they did, they're doing well. The problem is what they said that they were going to do are lower or not, either low growth or no growth in terms of earnings, and they're beating those targets. So I think the play is earnings don't normally improve and expand in a deflationary environment. So as prices have been coming down, and they have been coming down, especially if you look at the PPI, earnings don't normally expand during that environment because then companies have to actually take their selling prices down. So, and then also with interest rates so high, that's putting pressure on consumers. So earnings don't normally expand, but now as inflation is starting to subside, I think the play is that the markets are looking ahead, maybe 2 quarters or more, and saying, look, we've gotten through the worst of this, and earnings should start actually improving and potentially accelerating into the new year. So if you're playing that, you're not playing for some catastrophic event that's going to happen between now and the end of December. August and September are usually, saggy months from a market perspective. Also, there is a choice for people where they can put their money now. There wasn't a choice at zero interest rates over a year ago. There wasn't much of a choice. So, but the play, I do think the markets are going to rally. Again, not investment advice, but I do think they're going to rally into the end of the year, maybe back half of October, and it's going to be on earnings growth and improvement. And I agree, there's been valuation growth up until this point, and I think that's where you're starting to see some of these things come back in line a bit.
Yeah, I agree with what Jeff's saying. And Herbert, you're right. Most years the market's up. 70 to 80% of the time the market's up. So the correct thing is to say the market's going to be up, because most of the time it is. Most years the market's up. Most months the market's up. So you're right. So it's not about like pessimistic. I'm an optimist. What I'm saying is, you also have to understand that this environment is very tight, and just to be, let's go an example, and I think this is good from a high level. The beginning of the year, to go back and to what we're all saying and talking about, we were talking about Tesla, and Elon got on the call and said our goal, is 1.8 million, but our stretch goal is 2 million. And I saw a lot of Tesla bulls at 2.1 million is in the bag. 2.2 million. I don't see why they can't do it. Well, guess what? We're probably going to end this year around just over 1.8 million units sold. And that is still with price cuts to get to the little over 1.8 million units sold. They needed to reduce prices dramatically. So a lot of bulls on units growth for this year were way off at 2.122. Elon's off at 2. We're probably looking at just over 1.8, and it took severe price cuts to get to the 1.8. So I think, that is the best result we could have. But you could see how a lot of the community gets over their skis and anticipates how easy all this stuff is, and it's much harder in reality.
I agree with your points, Christian, except for you said 30 to 40% possibility for recession for next year. Is that what you're
I mean, I just threw a number out. I don't know.
No. He said for a recession. So
yeah, that's what I put it at. Yeah, one out of 3.
You think it's that high? So like September, as Christian mentioned, is historically the worst month of the year. I pulled up a video that kind of shows you a little chart of 1950s to 2022 data. You could see the back half after OPEX, the witching weeks where the monthly options expire. The sell-off after them is historically. So, Tesla shareholders, be prepared for shenanigans. And then after it, historically, when you have this kind of launch, 100% is what I learned of the time in the history. You have a Santa rally. You have this end of the year, as Christian was mentioning. So that is my expectation. I think Tesla's been moving sideways for a long time. I think that the market is pricing in the rate cut that inevitably does come. The number's been coming down. I haven't looked at the latest statistics. I know the yields have been going up again and the oil's up. So perhaps the rate hike predictions have changed. And I don't know if Christian wants to jump in with that, if you know that. But Disney. I just learned this morning that Disney went and for the last 10 years, if you were a shareholder, we're not you're not saying that's what Tesla's going to have, right, Christian? So
Disney's I'm not comparing them, but I'm just saying you're right. Yeah, 10 years. If you invested in Disney, a great American company 10 years ago, even with dividends, you're down on that investment, and the S&P I think's up like 200%. So yeah. It's been a lousy investment, Disney. No, we're not. That's just a fact.
And one can argue that it's management making bad choices. And here you still have a growth company that's going through a transition where it's changing gears and scaling. So yes, fundamentally short term, ultra short term, which most of us don't really care about, but we should be prepared for it. You're going to have continued pressure, as Elon has predicted. But I just don't see this as a problem. I see that as an opportunity, as we discussed last week, to continue to grow the position. And we just don't know when Tesla announces, FSD breakthrough or V12 is launched and then it works so well that they launch a robotaxi or whatever. We just don't know that, and I've been very, very uncomfortable with selling calls, so I actually haven't been. I've just paused. I'm waiting for some kind of big move, and then I'll maybe do a longer term one. But that's just me personally, not financial advice. And I'll close it with this. Omar had the most epic quote today in a space, and he said, what we're going through is like your parents telling you to eat your broccoli. Just eat your broccoli, and so that you can grow big and strong. And I think that was just so
Very
well
cute.
articulated. It's so cute because, but it makes sense, right? Like we have to eat our broccoli now. It sucks, but if you're a
Broccoli
long-term
is
investor,
good.
I like
No,
it.
it's not.
Me too. I
No,
love
it's
it.
not.
Oh, of
I
course,
hate
Christian doesn't
broccoli.
like it. Christian, if he doesn't have his pizza, his Italian pizza, there's nothing happening. Anyway, let's move on from Tesla stock and to Apple stock. I know you still have some, Herbert. Are you worried about your Apple stock? Do you think this is the end of Apple, or because the market seems to get a little bit nervous about Apple's valuation?
Yeah, part of the reason why I've been transferring from Apple to Tesla, even when I made a mistake and did it a little early, because I did it 2 years ago or a year ago, and Apple continued to go up, is that sense that, Apple is a very strong company, has tremendous fundamentals. It has tremendous, market share in terms of its customer base, switching to the subscription model, and it's going to continue to grow over time. But I just felt that I'd rather put my money in a company that could 10x at possibly, as opposed to one that's just so, like every year, just like every year you can count on it growing up. When things like this happen, which is what I think you're referring to, the China concern of possibly could be a major concern where their government said that they're not going to allow Apple phones there. This could be posturing, it could be negotiation, it could be a real deal. But I'm not worried about Apple. I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to succeed. They're a powerful company, right? We know that they're not going to go out of business. Maybe they might go down. The stock might go down 10, 20, 30% maybe. I don't expect it to go down 50%. If anything, they could actually continue to grow for just all sorts of different ways that they are introducing. They're now getting into credit cards and, savings accounts and banks and these things. And then they sell just their existing customer base. And so that's not going to go anywhere. I have to figure out what the impact would be if China says you can't sell iPhones there anymore. That would shock me if they ever did that. Foxconn is their major production. I just can't imagine that could happen, but it could. Yeah.
No, Apple's a great company. Yeah, Apple's a great company.
But do they continue to innovate? Because you probably also Elon's comment this morning
the
where
vision.
Exactly, I know the vision, but where he said, the new iPhone, I don't really see the difference. I mean, it wasn't that clear, but with the former version.
No, clearly that's one of the reasons why I switched, right? Because I wanted to go into a company that's an innovation engine. But at the end of the day, did it matter to Apple that the last time that they had a significant iPhone was the iPhone 10, and now they're at wherever they're at, 8 years later? It doesn't matter. It's like they don't have to innovate for people to buy their phone and upgrade to their phone every single year or every 2 years. And now they're switched to the subscription model to own the phone, and you're automatically switched anyways. And what you're locked in, of course, is all the services. And so it's almost like it doesn't matter that they innovate because they have a significant customer base. They're already eking out, if they can just get another $10 from every person who buys their iPhone, it's all they need to do. They introduce a new Apple Music service, which they just bought this new classical music company. It's not hard for them to just keep adding how many dollars they get from the existing base, but they might innovate with the headset.
Vision Pro.
That eventually the Vision Pro could become a big deal.
Yeah, could be big.
But it almost like if they doesn't make a big deal, like they're only competing with themselves to one up themselves. It's unlikely that a new company is going to come in and all of a sudden you're not going to buy the iPhone anymore. You're going to buy some other offering that's so much better. That just seems unlikely to me for a long time. It could be that somebody does come up with a new, the vision, their form of vision that then, negates the need for holding a phone. That could be their issue. But it seems to me from everything I've seen that they are so far ahead in all the technologies for vision that even if they don't nail it right at this time, they've got several years to finally tweak it, to finally get a mass produced or acceptable product over time.
I'll just mention real quick. I agree with everything Herbert said. I think Apple's a great company. They buy back their shares. You got Buffett in there who owns a huge stake. But I think the main, and they're just a cash machine, and they got so much cash to buy back the shares. So I think the main thing with Apple, though, they are richly valued, right? So I think that the trick with them is I do think there's some pressure on them on the Vision Pro. I don't think they have years because I think for their next leg, if they're going to do another, double or something or triple. This Vision Pro has to hit, right? It can't be a flop because at this valuation, and if iPhones are just stagnant, we know there's not really a lot of innovation coming from there. This stock is vulnerable, I think. So I do think there is some pressure next year for them to have a great product, and Apple usually does great products, and I think that will be fine. But if they cannot hit Vision Pro and it doesn't sell, or it's not well done and it's a flop, I do think there is a chance for that stock to get severely impaired because there's just no other growth. I think I agree with Herbert. The install base is huge and they could use services, but I don't know how much the stock could appreciate if the Vision Pro isn't a hit. Just my opinion.
It's your question of how much of a hit. So I'm giving maybe 10, 20% of a hit if the innovation doesn't happen, because as you just said, the vast majority of the reason why the stock appreciates is because of the stock buybacks.
Yeah.
They are because they're such a cash machine, because they're so profitable. Yeah. They just buy back their stock. It doesn't.
That's why Buffett loves it. That's why Buffett loves that.
Any innovation at all.
It's mechanical. It's just math.
They just buy back the stock and the earnings
value.
Rise. Yeah. The earnings rise because they buy back the stock. That's
exactly because the divider of the number of stock outstanding becomes smaller, and hence the
earnings go up. The earnings go up.
And there's been no innovation for 10 years, and yet their stock has skyrocketed, and that's the reason. And so, for me, it doesn't matter if they had another innovation or not. It could be another 5 years where there's no innovation. They'll still buy back the stock. They'll still raise the earnings per share. Will still go up.
Actually, for them, what's probably most important is keeping the competitors in check. That there is no major innovation that makes anybody change of universe. For me, this is a crazy story because I've never been Apple. If you watch it and are an Android user, you just can't believe how this works, right? But then again, Tesla, I think, is doing the same thing. I think Tesla universe is going to work exactly the same way.
Yeah. It really is so analogous, right? So Tesla is Apple with the high margins. Then you've got BYD is becoming Samsung. And then you got the rest of the Chinese companies going to be Android. And then everyone else, like European brands and the American brands are like Nokia and RIM, they're dead. Okay, because of the structure of their company and their legacy that they had to do. It really is playing out in such. And now what is the angle for Tesla? To basically do what Apple did, not that Tesla should never do what other companies do. Tesla should do what they're doing. They're right. But the whole thing about services, right? The whole wrapper of the whole experience. No one is doing the end to end, right? Superchargers and then solar panels. And then, just how everything integrates with each other, right? And there's just a unique experience with the app. You're not going to leave once you're in the Tesla ecosystem. You're not going to ever leave. It's just, you have access to Netflix and entertainment on your thing. You're buying premium Wi-Fi connectivity if they partner with Starlink, and now you've got your internet through Tesla. These things will just be so hard to break through.
Completely
and
agree.
The difference, I think, between Apple and Tesla, there's one massive difference.
Well, Tesla is producing, right? Tesla is manufacturing.
The one massive difference is that Apple wanted to be a closed garden. They refused to license.
Yeah.
Tesla's not doing that. Tesla is absolutely open to go license my FSD, go license my superchargers, go license how we build factories. We're going to help you everything. We're going to sell you the parts. That is a big difference. And in that reason, it could turn out that this is not the Apple Samsung. This could turn out to be Tesla owns everything.
Winner takes it all. Well, which brings me to the next question, and I would like Jeff's and Xander's opinion on this one because we heard them a bit less. Is there any other EV stock you would consider?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, just very small positions like Rivian, for example. I picked up in the low 20s, and I'm fine with it. It's in 2 weeks. It's done a pretty good return. It's really just a trade. I'm not sure it's a long-term investment unless I can see them pulling in their mid-tier product line and pulling that in. Because right now they're servicing a segment that no one's really doing quite well. The question is when their product lines get to peak volume, do they actually make money? And that is why I'm not looking at this as like a long-term investment, more of a trade. But if your question is, would you invest in another EV maker? The answer is no. Would you trade one? Yeah, I'll trade one.
But only Rivian, right? You haven't thought about BYD or anybody else?
Well, I guess VinFast would have been a fun thing to bat around a few weeks ago, but I didn't jump on that roller coaster. But now I'm in terms of investment, I'm very, very big into Tesla for all the reasons we just discussed.
Perfect. And Xander?
I would not. I'm not investing into automaker Tesla. I'm investing into robot maker or autonomous vehicle maker. I like the SaaS revenue, like Apple launched their network cloud business, and as your images grow, are you going to go back and like delete stuff? No, you're just going to keep paying Apple to increase the size of your cloud. And I think that Tesla is just it's a beast of its own that's nothing like it. So I'm not trying to be smarter than anyone, and it's just I don't know what I'm doing. None of us do. We don't know what the market's going to do. But looking at the total addressable market of Tesla, it's huge, and they're going after such a big pie that even if it's not perfect, I can see the stock and my money growing. And so I'd rather take the safe route. I don't really want to gamble my family's retirement on something that has a bankruptcy risk or has a CEO that's taking a crazy amount of money.
Are you sure you know who the CEO at Tesla is? You remember where you're going there.
So I think it's for me it's a no thanks. But I had a quick question regarding Apple. Are we bringing Apple up because of the China
yes
thing?
Because it was obviously a market mover in this week.
Yeah,
the last 2 days it was down wasn't it down like 6-7% real quick?
And Nvidia at one moment, right? I mean, it was a tough market for everybody. Christian, is there any other EV maker that you are considering? No, you're cheap.
No, I'm only in Tesla. I do other stocks, but there's no other EV makers that got my interest. No.
Yeah, and of course Herbert not, because Herbert, it's sunshine Tesla. So
if I would be looking at the rickshaws and the scooters. Those would be the big sellers, I think. But I have no interest.
Good. Well, we can move to societal because we're already long overdue. I'm sorry, I'm so late today. We heard that Xander is ready to drive down to Starbase and watch Boca Chica and watch the Starship do its second launch. Any news on that one? When do you expect that, or you're just ready any day? How do you do that?
Well, it was supposed to be on the 8th. That was like the FAA application, from my understanding. And then I saw something about the 9th, and I just don't, I'm looking for the posts and waiting for the go ahead to hop in the car. But I want to see it. My son's birthday is coming up, so there might be a conflict. So I'm hoping that it happens either before or after, and not the day of. And
if it is day off, what are you gonna do?
My wife asked me that question.
Wouldn't she?
I would totally miss my son's birthday to see a Starship. But I actually said, I'm kidding. I would pull him out of school and I would drive. I'd take the whole family to see this.
How old is he gonna be? How old is he going to be?
He's going to be 11.
Oh, good. Yeah, so he will really understand it and enjoy it.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, just feeling that the roar of those engines. And I've never been to a launch, so to be that close for the most powerful rocket.
You have to do it. You have to do it.
And make sure, when Herbert mentioned he would maybe invest in rickshaws and whatever, we got to get Jeff's face. That was priceless when he does his reactions. I can't.
He covered his face like
these looks like a surprise, and only Jeff could do it. So get that on freeze frame.
Tell us, Jeff. Tell us.
I was just interested to hear the business case behind that.
the number of
rickshaws are the next big investment, you know.
He will never say anything negative, but you have to read between the lines. You really have to read between the lines.
He's getting me back for when I attacked him last week. So,
you know, if I would invest in anything, it's rickshaws, I'm sure.
Does that mean you want to invest in Warren's company? Is that
No,
AI,
don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
EVs.
I didn't.
Rickshaws.
I'm
all right?
all
moving on.
in
Wait.
Apple.
And scooters. It says scooters.
Energy storage.
I'm just saying,
Energy storage.
if you were picking an EV company, you were asking that question. I'm not going to pick anything, and not even Rivian like Mr. Jeff did. I would have picked
Bird
these
trade.
companies. Why? Because
renting
there is an open field, and if you think
field.
globally, there's a massive opportunity globally, like the Philippines and Pakistan, India, these scooters and everything. Now, I don't know. I'm not saying I'm gonna do it. I'm just saying,
playing with
if
you, Herman. I'm
asked me
playing
to,
with you. I just thought
done it.
the rickshaw scooter market is the one to be at. I agree.
Actually, you
Go ahead,
know
Tom.
why the scooter market is they're all negative basically, is
Yeah, I agree.
the charging solution is all screwed
Yeah.
up. They have trucks of people that go out and collect these
Swappable.
things and charge them in their
Charge them.
homes. It's not
Yeah.
good economics. Yeah. We can have a
It's
whole
not.
episode on that.
I'm not.
It's
I would
not.
not do it. I'm not.
Yeah.
We're
And I
gonna
think
do
we
it. We're gonna
should
have the
move on.
thumbnail, the Herbert thumbnail with the rickshaw opportunity, and we're gonna have a whole episode on it.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Now, the rest of the session, I wanted to talk about, everything media and communication. And there are a couple of subjects. So it's Walter Isaacson's book coming out, and we're seeing extracts already. We've seen some in the Wall Street Journal. We've seen some in Times Magazine yesterday. What do you, how do you like this way of presenting it, right? That this drip until it comes out, this exciting building, and how does it fit? Because I had the feeling yesterday that Elon was a little bit like, okay, this is not the whole story, but I guess that's what he saw, so that's what he reports. So I feel there's already a little bit of tension on all that, and Elon obviously gave him the okay to publish without Elon reading and editing a last time. So what's your thought on all that? Who wants to go first?
First of all,
Herbert.
Yeah, I think that because we're on Twitter, because Walter Isaacson has been very heavily involved with Twitter Spaces and tweeting quite a bit, I think we see way more in terms of like his drip of here's another chapter, here's another angle. He's doing a fantastic job marketing, I think. But if you look at the general public, no one knows that this book is coming. He's not oversaturated that at all. And I think that, in fact, when I saw Elon say that, it was more like, yeah, this was accurate. This was well written. And then he just said, of course, well, there's more to the story. So I didn't think it was that he was, any commentary about Walter Isaacson misinterpreting what actually happened. Because there's probably way more that he hasn't shared about what actually happened between Elon and Larry Page and the others.
For sure. And I mean, I do believe, and that's the one point I wanted to get to today as well, is that the press and the media, CNBC or whatever, they're going to pick up the couple of few lines in there that we don't like as much and blow them up. So I think we just have to be ready for that chapter of Elon news in the next couple of weeks, because they're going to have a ball with it, and it will pass. This too shall pass. I think Walter did, from what I've seen so far, a very good job in narrating and putting it all together. I mean, can you imagine being next to Elon for, how long was it now, 15, 18 months, going through all this together, being able to recite it, making the choice of what you say and what you don't say to keep the story ready. So it's not an easy task, and especially since Elon took over Twitter, now X, which brings me to the next point, that Elon being more political again this week. Maybe, Herbert, you want to show us this dominoes effect from Elon. So anybody want to comment on this one?
Not me.
Not me.
No problem.
I'm good. I probably would have made that meme. I'm good.
You would have made that meme?
I said I probably would have made that meme, but I'm good. I don't want to comment on it.
So there we
You
are.
just did.
We only got
You
Herbert.
just did. You
Herbert,
just
say something. Defend Elon.
okay, well,
Do it.
I'm not. First of all, I'm not. My job is not to defend Elon. In fact, if anything, it's like, why are you doing something like this? Continuing to do it, like he's just can't help himself. I mean, he obviously either believes that this is real, which is another conspiracy theory, and he knows it's a conspiracy theory. It feels like almost like he's just trying to,
Poke at
whatever,
it.
like
Poking.
poke
Yeah.
at it. And at the end of the day, I've seen so many of this at this point. This didn't phase me at all at this point. It's like, yeah, no,
We're becoming
he's
numb
already
to
doing this so
Elon
often.
stuff, right, Herbert? We're coming numb to
Yeah.
it, like we said.
Yeah,
That's
And
actually
I
probably a
don't-
good
at the end
thing, right?
Yeah, that's a good.
It is a fantastic thing, and you know that this did not move anything, right? There's nothing. We didn't.
No.
It didn't change public opinion. It did not that we already seen the stats also that it isn't actually affecting the public opinion in terms of sales for cars as much as everybody thought it was. And so at this point, hey, you say what you feel and you do what you like, and that's fine. I do personally think that he's actually is a moderate. He will do both sides, but clearly he's been saying way more on one side than the other side for quite a long time. So I think in Walter Isaacson's book, by the way, he spends quite a bit of time saying why. Did you see this? It's
The one that
because
was
of
in the
his,
Wall Street Journal. Yeah.
because of his daughter who
Yeah.
came out
Transitioned.
and then felt that she was actually very much a communist or Marxist. And then it made Elon feel like there's something about the schooling system. There's something about the woke that took it too far. And we don't know what happened between his relationship with his daughter or anything like that. But apparently, according to Walter, that's what was a trigger for why Elon went a little bit on the other side, totally went on one side. Yeah.
We can all agree it'll be a fascinating read, right?
Oh, it will. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Okay, I think this wraps it up. It's been cumbersome today because we had so many subjects to cover, but I love doing that. Thanks a lot.
It was a
Thanks
fun
for letting me
show.
moderate it.
Great
It
job,
was, right?
Alexandra. I had a lot of fun.
Well done.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. And
Great job,
we'll see you all
everyone.
next week, right?
Yeah.
Thanks a
Yep.
lot. Bye-bye.